Hey, Prof, are you sure about just letting it go like that? We weren't going to reach a conclusion like that. She knows that we suspect her. Sorry, Prof, that's my fault. I got a bit head up. Don't apologize. We all get worked up sometimes. Anyways, I'm quite certain now that she's the culprit. Likewise. You can tell she's hiding something by the way she's that quick to get Marty. I'm convinced that she hid the murder weapon somewhere in the room after she killed her husband. She wouldn't have the time to dispose of it outside before the caretaker arrived. Then she arranged the scene to look like an intruder broke in from the outside. However, there's an inconsistency between the course of events she describes and the scenes she set up. Is there? Of course, there's no such thing as a perfect lie, Lucy. The murder weapon is somewhere at the scene of the crime without question. Well, if we can find it, we'll blast a whopping great hole in that double-barreled bimbo story. There are two issues. The murder weapon and the way she set the scene to make it look like a break-in. Right, okay. Alright. So, I know decisive evidence is the glass that's on top of his body. Okay. It's the glass. Broken glass. This is the evidence. Hey, yup, what about this, Prof? This could be it. The broken glass? Which statement is that inconsistent with? Heard the window shattering, then her husband scream. Okay. Haha. You've got it. I've got it! Yes, the broken glass is quietly inconsistent with that statement. We've backed Potsby-Mahn into a corner now. This proves she's been lying. Of course you appreciate why the inconsistency is, right? Aye, the bits of broken glass are on top of the body, not underneath it. That's all wrong. Precisely. This puts paid to the idea that the intruder broke in via the window and killed Potsby. Well spotted, Lucy. Let's see if we can find the murder weapon the suspect used. She must have hidden it here somewhere. Judging by the shape of the victim's wound, we're looking for something long and thin. But it wasn't the knives. There's nothing in the bag of chips. It's not in the bed. Is it in the wardrobe? Well, I can't look closer into the wardrobe, so I don't think it's in the wardrobe. Why is this clock here? Oh, I'm just gonna start saying, this is the weapon! This is the weapon! And see what happens. This clock's got me thinking, Prof. You'd better have a closer look at it then, Lucy. Ah, haha. Now maybe I can look closer into the wardrobe. Let me check. Oh. No, it changed, so I think there's definitely something here. Metal hands of the clock. Long minute hand is slightly bent at the tip. Oh, I see. Glass cover. Pendulum. Alright. So you've had a chance to examine the clock in detail now. And what do you think? Is there any way it could have been used as a murder weapon at all? I mean, the clock hands are bent at the tip, so I think that's suspicious. Yes, the hand! It's long and thin, alright. Pretty sharp, too. If you look closely, you notice it's also slightly bent. Aye, there's every chance this is what we're used to do the fellow in. I can't read your text, Lucy. Why do you speak so strangely to me? Which means the murder weapon were in the room right from the start. And having committed the crime, the perpetrator hid it on the premises. In other words, the culprit was in the flat before, during, and after the crime. An excellent find, Lucy. Hey, I'm chuffed. Ask forensics to go over the clock hand again, would you? If it really is the murder weapon, then we should be able to find traces of Potsby's blood on it. Will do. There's still an inconsistency I have, though, which is the pot of the pasta. Because it said the knives were new, so that means they barely used them. I mean, pasta isn't necessarily a dish that uses knives, so maybe they just never use knives. Cooking knives, but I mean, it's implied. Like, they made a deal about it, that's what I mean. That's everything. We've tied up all the loose ends, haven't we? Yes, in theory at least. How do you mean? We haven't got quite enough to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Potsby-Mahn was responsible. Okay. Why do you say that? Never mind. Why don't you call our suspect and we'll take it from here. This time we'll get her to tell us the truth, whether she likes it or not. Hey, I can't wait. Ask her to come in. What if... Okay. What if... No, it's definitely what's gonna happen. Okay. I'm just gonna say that I'm gonna call this the scrap of paper we found in the bathroom is important. I'm just gonna call it for now. I'm wondering. Oh my, keep your furry friend under control. Well, I do declare. My furry friend, as you put it, does have a name, Miss Baker. Bingo, but I call him Bing. Well, I can't say I approve of his collar, but I hope that chain's a good one. At risk of repeating yourself, Miss Potsby-Mahn, would you mind, Yes, I know. Bing, go away from me in the car. Go away from me in the car, boy. The trunk's open. I'm sure the good inspector will not be keeping me long. Arf, arf. Where did she find this dog man? Now, whatever affairs we still have to discuss, Inspector, I trust we can do so quickly. I always go to the park with Bing around this time of day. Don't worry, Miss Potsby-Mahn, I'm fairly sure this will be the last time we meet. So what exactly requires my attention now, may I ask? I assume you have finally concluded that it was the outlaw who murdered my husband? On the contrary, we are now quite certain Mr. Nix is completely innocent in this matter. If you'll cast your mind back to our previous conversation, we established that the victim was stabbed from the back. That's not anything new, why did it... Okay. The victim was stabbed from behind without warning. He was caught completely unaware. Mr. Potsby had no idea what was coming. There's no way that Nix could have done that if he came in the way you described. As I have already... Oh my god, I'm switching Lucy and this lady's voice over and over. As I have already told you more than once, Jack was inclined to fall asleep while watching the television. Of course, we cannot deny the possibility that your husband was indeed asleep at the time. However, if that were truly the case, it would be at odds with something else that happened. In other words, the victim couldn't have been dozing when the window was smashed. Yes. Okay. Because the window was shattered. All that glass breaking made a right din and no mistake. No one could have slept through that. There's no way Mr. Potsby wouldn't have woken up. I do declare, you are as slow as a snail sometimes, Miss Baker. My husband was quite exhausted that day. He was sleeping like a log. Even the clatter of the window breaking would surely not have roused him. Well, there's not more to be said on that front, I suppose. Only when that outlaw drove his knife into my poor husband's back did he wake with a spine-chilling scream. And it was on hearing that scream that you ran into the bathroom just to see what was happening, yes? That is correct. My sudden arrival scared the outlaw away before he could even steal a bitty bit. I know it was that thief that they caught in the grounds. I see. So you describe the course... So that's the course of events as you describe it. I've never said anything to the contrary. If so, may I just recap? You were having a shower in the bathroom when you heard the sound of glass shattering. Immediately after that, you heard Mr. Potsby scream. That's what you're telling us happened, are you? It's also what you said in your statement. Of course it is, because that's the truth, Inspector. Then I would have to say you are a liar, Miss Potsby-Mahn. Well, a liar? Indeed. And there is a certain piece of evidence on the scene that will prove me right. Well, I'm all ears. If this evidence really exists, then I would sure like to see it. It's a broken glass. There are repeats of broken These bits of broken glass prove that you're lying to us, Miss Potsby-Mahn. Oh, that is hogwash. All of these little bitty bits of glass prove nothing of the sort. Would you care to explain, Lucy? Tell Miss Potsby exactly what the broken glass reveals. The timing of the stabbing. You only have to look at the broken glass in order to see the order of events that led to Mr. Potsby's death. What order of events? You claim you heard the window smash first and then your husband scream. But if that were the case, then what are all these bits of glass doing on top of the body, eh? If your statement were true, the broken glass would be underneath the corpse. But they aren't, are they, Miss Potsby-Mahn? They're on top, which proves that the window was smashed after the victim was stabbed. So it would seem that you have deliberately given a false statement. I have done no such thing. I have just simply confused matters in my head. I'm all torn up about the loss of my dear husband. This simple misunderstanding proves nothing. I retract my statement. I simply cannot remember if I heard the scream or glass breaking first. Perhaps the outlaw came inside some other way and only smashed the window after killing my Jack. Oh, you little weasel! Let us assume for a moment that you were indeed mistaken. That introduces a new complication. It does? Indeed, because we know that both the door and window were both locked before the incident occurred. If the culprit didn't break the window, how did he or she get into the flat? Why, I have no idea. What are you just trying to say, Inspector? What I'm saying is simple. We can be sure now that the true perpetrator of the crime is... you. It were you, Miss Goldie Potsby-Mahn? At the time of the attack, the window and door of the flat were locked. The only other way in were by smashing the window, but we both know what happened after. We both know that happened after the window. Victim died. With no method of entry available, the only conclusion is that the culprit did not come in from the outside. No, the person who did this was in the flat from the outside. And the only person who fits that bill, Miss Potsby-Mahn, is you. Am I to understand that you are accusing me of murder because I was in my home the whole time? Aye, you ought to understand that. Then I must remind you of something of vital importance that you appear to overlook. Oh, what's that? Oh, just a little bitty thing I called a murder weapon. I hear it told that you have still not found it anywhere inside the apartment, which I never left. If I am to be accused of this crime, why, I would just love to know where I'm supposed to have put it. Indeed, I confess to having been stumped by that conundrum. Well, there you have it. You have not a shred of evidence that I've killed my husband. However, we did eventually manage to locate the murder weapon. Huh? I beg your pardon? Heh. Aye, that's right. We know exactly what you used to skewer your man. I do declare that's simply not possible. You didn't dispose of the murder weapon outside of the flat. No, it's been in there the entire time. You're starting to rile me, Inspector. Tell me where this murder weapon is. Tell me where this murder weapon I'm supposed to have used is. The murder weapon were hitting the clock. What? Are you quite sure? Sure as eggs are eggs, eh? It were the minute hand of the clock that we used to kill Mr. Potsby. Why, that is hogwash. A man can never be killed with such a thing. Well, the shape of the hand matches the victim's wound perfectly. Ah, you haven't got long to wriggle your way out of this one. Forensics are going over a fine-tooth comb. Okay. Yes. Ha ba ba. Hello? The shape of it? Well, it is almost. You admit it now. I don't think so, do you, Inspector? Prof! What's the matter? The results from forensics. They found none on it. No traces of blood whatsoever. Really? Ma, what a terrible shame. Your trump card turned out to be a joker in the end. I do declare I hate it when that happens. No, I must have missed something. Prof? Can I assume we are finally on the same page now, Inspector? That outlaw Nix is responsible for my husband's death and I am no longer under suspicion? If you could just fill out these forms for me with words to that effect. Forms? Well, my husband's life insurance simply will not pay out without the proper paperwork, Miss Baker. Have you got no shame at all? We're talking about a man's life. Why, you have no idea what you're talking about, Missy. Jack doted on me. He would turn in his grave if he thought his little pot of gold would not be mine. Would not be mine after his death. Okay. How do you have the gall to say something like that? Killing for cash. Not a bad idea. Hey, Prof, are you alright? But your motives are far, far darker than that, aren't they, Goldie? Don't get uppity with me now, Inspector. Oh, but you enjoy it, don't you? You kill for money, but it's not the cash you're after, it's the kick, isn't it? What are you on about, Prof? What's got into you? I can just imagine it. That little smile creeping onto your lips as you prepared the murder weapon. I'll not fall into your petty trap, Inspector. Need I remind you that you still have not even found this murder weapon of which you speak? And we never will, because it no longer exists. Inspector, I do declare you have lost your mind. Are you just suggesting the murder weapon just vanished into thin air? You'd be delighted if that's what we concluded, wouldn't you? But let me put it another way. The weapon that was used to stab Jack Potsby didn't exactly vanish. It melted. Eh? What, in a furnace or something? Oh, hang on. I think I get it now. I know what happened. Haha. Ha 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 ha. Keep in mind what I said earlier. The murder weapon must have been melted in this pot. Oh yes, the weapon that killed Potsby disappeared in this very pot. I have no idea what you're talking about. I assure you I was simply making my husband some pasta. Don't mock me. Where are the cutlery? Where are the bowls? Where's the pasta sauce? There's no sign of any preparation of a meal at all. Just the pasta and this pot of boiling water. I had intended to prepare those things later, but... I don't think so. I don't think that pasta was ever meant for eating at all. No, the pasta was prepared for the sole purpose of a little disappearing act. Tell me by now, you figured out what the murder weapon was, Lucy. Oh aye, I'm with you now, Prof. The murder weapon was... a knife made of ice. Haha. We've revealed it. 100%. The weapon used to stab Jack Potsby would, to death would, a knife made of ice. It would have melted to naught in no time at all in a pot of boiling water like that one to use the pot. What she said. What anyone with an ounce of horse sense can see that this is just fiction that you have concocted. Even if there were a knife made of ice like you say, it's gone now, has it not? My hands are clean, you can never prove that I had such a weapon in my possession. Well, no, perhaps not, but, Prof? Yes, we can. Pardon me, Inspector. Are you back to no one now, Prof? Sorry, Lucy. Yes, I'm fine now, thank you. What are you two whispering about over there? We're discussing the ice knife. You are, of course, correct that the knife itself is no more. However, in order to make the knife in the first place, there was a mold, and that mold is still on the scene. I surely would like to see it. Lucy, do you know what was used? Yes, it's right here. Scrap a card. Slightly damp. I've got it! Haha. It was this damp piece of card that we used to mold the shape of the knife. If you fold it back up to the creases, let's see what you get. Oh, look, a perfect knife shape. Told you guys! Yes, if you line the mold with cling film or the like, then filled it and put it in the freezer, you make a knife. We'll be able to match the shape of the mold to that of the victim's wound to be certain, of course. Okay. Why, it's nothing more than a coincidence. Anyone can see that. We have more evidence against you. After you stabbed your husband, you used a towel to wipe blood off the knife. The towel we found on the balcony. Yes, and then once you were satisfied you removed all the blood, you put the icy weapon in the boiling water. But are you absolutely sure you removed every last trace? I'm not sure. I don't follow. In my experience, no one ever manages to remove all traces of blood off of a weapon. If you indeed dissolve the knife that killed your husband in boiling water, we will still be able to positively identify the victim's blood when we examine the pot. Why, you little... Lucy, have forensics go over the pot for us, will you? Straight away, Prof. I spoke with forensics, they're on the case already. Now we merely need to wait for the results. Are you ready to admit to your crime now, Miss Potsby-Mahn? I have no intention of admitting to anything, Inspector. Even if you can prove my husband was killed with a knife made of ice, it does not mean I did it. Oh, you know when you've had it, lass. I've had nothing, Miss Baker, other than my innocence questioned most unjustly. Unfortunately for you, there is no logical way in which you are not guilty. If you will cast your mind back, we show that there is no way into the flat when the incident took place. The doors and windows were locked. In other words, only somebody who was already inside could have stabbed Mr. Potsby. Oh please, you admitted yourself that you did not leave the flat. In your own words, the apartment which I have never left. No, Or is that another statement you would now like to retract? I must warn you that doing so only makes things worse for you in the end, though. I demand to see my attorney. You cannot continue to question me in this way. Certainly. Lucy, make the necessary arrangements, please. Will do, Prof. Why, to be accused of such a petty little thing. Mystery solved. Haha. Oh man. That was a tiring case. She put up quite the fight, eh? Yeah, she did. I went right tiz at when the lab said that they found naught on the clock hand, I can tell you. Don't worry, Lucy, you weren't alone. It's a bit of a gamble as to whether they'll find any traces of blood in the pot of pasta as well. You're joking, aren't you? I'm pretty sure she's going to confess now, though. Pretty sure, eh?
Alfendi, she is admitted to everything.
Hey, what a relief.
It seems she was after the man's life insurance.
She told us as much as when we were questioning her, would you believe?
Oh, well, did you know this? We found out that Potsby won a very large sum of money last year. That was when Miss Mann came into his life. Hardly what you might call a coincidence.
She was a real gold digger, eh?
Well, it seems Potsby was spending money like water. She was terrible he'd rack up as much debt as the insurance payout, so she had to murder him quickly.
I see. So it was something of a rush job. She no doubt prepared better for her other spouses. So it's all done and dusted then? Fabulous.
I must say, Al, you don't look very well. Are you alright?
Probably that Jekyll and Hyde moment you had has taken it out of you, eh, Prof? That's a bit of an exaggerated way of describing it, Lucy. I do feel a little under the weather. I think I'll go home early. No one objects. Are you sure you'll be alright? It's nothing I'm sure a bit of sleep won't cure. I'm sure. Can you close up the office when you leave? Consider it done. Yeah, I hope he's alright.
So it happened again, did it?
Hey, you know about Hey, do you know it then, Florence, about the Prof? Whatever it's all about, eh? Calm down, Lucy.
Calm down, Lucy. I really don't know all that much about it. But you're safe as long as there's a criminal present.
You don't hear that said every day.
What I mean is the other Al is only interested in criminals. You won't come to any harm.
So he's got some kind of vendetta against all criminals or something?
Actually, from what I've seen of him, it's quite the opposite. He can't help liking them, all the more so the more atrocious they are.
Hey, I don't like the sound of that.
There's really no cause for alarm. Like I said, as long as there's a criminal present, you're perfectly safe.
What happens if he shows up when it's just the two of us, though?
If it were me, I'd rip out my drip and run like the wild.
I think I'll come in my plimsolls tomorrow. I don't know what plimsolls are, but next time on Let's Cats, I guess we're doing the next case. That was pretty interesting. It was a little too scripted for my tastes, but it was interesting. Next time on Let's Cats, a murder staged. Requester Justin Lawson. I'll see you then.